Hello, my name is Kent Philpott. I'm pastor of Miller Avenue Baptist Church in Mill Valley, California, and I'm doing a little series on the trance states as they relate to what we call charisma. Charisma would be a term that's used by not necessarily Christians, but by people like involved in Santeria and in Wicca, and those who promote trance states, moving into trance. And so I ran across this term charisma and started to investigate it, and I wrote a little essay on it, and I am delivering now 4 videos. This is the second. This is number 2 on the series on charisma. I want to start with an experience that I've known about for many years actually, called soaking prayer, and looking at it to see whether or not this might indicate the presence of the trance or altered state of consciousness. Soaking prayer. I have heard of soaking prayer for some 8 or so years and never understood what it was. At first my idea was it involved long periods of time spent in prayer to God. When I found out what it really was, I was shocked, to put it mildly. For two or more decades, there's been a renewed interest in mysticism among Christians. I have been on retreats with fellow clergy in which there was an emphasis on contemplative prayer, and names like Teresa of Avila, St. John of the Cross, St. Ignatius Loyola, among others, were mentioned and their spiritual disciplines discussed. For some reason I was never able to resonate with it because my understanding of meditation was different. Meditation, mentioned several times in the Psalms, stressed a focused, mindful thinking of who God is and what He has done. So the contemplative praying left me cold. I preferred to follow Jesus and the New Testament's understanding of prayer. Jesus taught us how to pray, even what could be prayed, well, we call the Lord's Prayer, and the emphasis for prayer was deliberate, conscious, a voicing of concerns and praise to God. Soaking prayer goes way beyond contemplative or meditative prayer, however. Soaking prayer is in reality a mystical activity or form of praying. Since it is often described as a, quote, resting in God's presence, it appears to be innocuous and biblical. This is how many are drawn into it, especially when it is embraced by charismatic church leaders. Proponents of soaking prayer are convinced it is nothing more than, quote, positioning yourself to express your love to God. To get to that stage, however, some quiet instrumental or worship music is played and listened to, often while lying down. Then the mind will eventually settle down and focus on God, it is said. The attitude to approach God is to be, quote, God, do what you want to in me. After some period, maybe hours go by, there might be laughter, crying, or shaking, but all supposed to be what the Holy Spirit is doing to the one soaking. The goal of soaking prayer, or a possible endpoint of it, is that the Holy Spirit would give a person a vision or bring a memory to mind that needs to be healed. Another emphasis of soaking prayer is that it brings a person to a state of deep rest. Soaking prayer almost always is accompanied by the playing of gentle worship songs. This, while a person is sitting or more often lying down, it involves praying short prayers, but for an extended period of time, almost like a devotee in Hinduism would chant a mantra. The point, though, for persons practicing soaking prayer, they are to attempt to keep their mind free of other thoughts. This is to continue until there is a sensation felt in the body, perhaps a tingling of the skin, a sensation of heat or cold, or a gently breeze blowing upon the body. Then when this happens, the desired fourth stage has been reached, as there will be an experience of being in the presence of God. The soaking praying may begin innocently enough, but after a while the prayers are in a meditative state of mind, and here any connection with biblical prayer has been abandoned. From Secret Place Ministries and their website is the following explanation of soaking prayer under the heading, Embark on an Intimate Journey. Quote, the secret place is not just a listening experience, It is a journey of soaking worship. It is a place of intimacy with the Father, a place where the heart longs for His touch. End of quote. In that same website, where music for soaking prayer may be purchased, is the following testimony written for the composer of music used for soaking prayer. And so this is a soaking prayer facilitator who is communicating a word of appreciation to the composer of the music. Here's the quote. I prepare the sanctuary to become a resting place for the Lord as people come to soak in His presence. The lights are turned down, there are candles, and the atmosphere is that of intimacy. For 3 hours we seek His face together and listen to your music, which invites His presence to come. I lead it at our soaking prayer center at the church, and many of our soakers really like it. It is anointed, and I've had some awesome visions of angels and God's glory while worshiping with it in the background. This sounds so very familiar to the Wiccan techniques used to enter a trance state. I wish it were not so. And I have found there is an addictive quality to soaking prayer. People crave it and think other forms of worship are uninteresting. Something that goes along but is different from that, but the traveling companions are virtually the same, is something called sozo ministry or sozo prayer. Sozo comes from the Greek word for save or deliver. Sozo is very mystical in its approach and departs dramatically from any biblical route. Those engaged in sozo prayer are encouraged by a mediator guide to enter into a mild trance state. The mediator guide then leads a person, quote, into a series of mental, emotional rooms or stages where, by connecting to their own deep feelings and thoughts, they believe themselves to have a new experience with God. Now, someone who is biblically oriented might say, well, how in the world did that get started? And that's just the point, that it lacks any kind of connection with biblical Christianity at all. Number 3 coming up.